So today we're going to talk about suspension lift in the Grand Vitara. This is my 2013 model and it has 2-inch suspension blocks. So it's got the original springs and springs. Now a lot of people are going to say, suspension blocks, that's a bad idea, but I spent a lot of time thinking about this. This is possibly one of the only vehicles I would use with suspension blocks, and there's a very good reason, which I will go into. So let's just do some, we'll do some quick measurements on how much travel we've got. So I'm just going to measure from the top of the guard to the center of the axle, and it's 585 millimeters on the down wheel and 460 on the up wheel. I'll work all this out later. That's for the front. Okay, this is the back. This is why I chose to measure to the center of the axle and not the top of the wheel, because the wheel's up inside the guard. On the down up wheel we have 375, 380, and on the extended rear wheel we have 610, near enough. I want you to notice here that this lift doesn't seem to put any extra stress on the CVs. Right here, that one's relatively flat. This is the rear. This one is pointing down at a slight angle, but nothing too serious. This is really hard to hold the camera still. Nothing too serious. And let's go to the front. So this is the front left-hand wheel. This is the one downmost. Notice there's not too much angle on that CV joint. In fact, when this car is sitting flat without on ramps, those CV joints are sitting relatively flat, whereas without the lift kit they're actually pointing up a bit. So, and on this side, that CV joint or shaft is relatively flat, so there's no stress on that at all. There's another thing that I'll show you. Now this is stock standard brake lines. Plenty of movement there, so we're not pulling on them at all. Same for the rear. And we have 245/65 R17s, which is one size up from the standard tyre. Now these tyres fit regardless of whether you've got a lift kit, I'm told. So yes, you don't even need a lift kit to fit these tyres. Right, now getting to the nitty gritty. One of the reasons I chose blocks over a different kind of suspension lift is that with the Suzuki I'm using exactly the same standard springs and struts as came standard, and the reason for that is up here inside the strut is where you'll find the bump stop, as opposed to in a lot of IFS vehicles you'll find the bump stop down in the lower control arm inside there, so that when the suspension comes up it hits the bump stop before it tops out the shock absorber. Now with this setup I can drop the shock absorber and spring down. The bump stop moves with it, and so it's not going to impinge on the bump stop at all. The only thing that, and the shock absorber stops the down travel. So basically you haven't infringed on the vehicle at all. The only difference is in the back here, because the shock absorber is not inside the spring, you've effectively changed the mounting point distance of the shock absorber. So, and that shock absorber is leaking, needs to be replaced. But basically what that means is you have to have a longer shock to enable enough down travel. So what you've effectively done is improved your rear axle articulation by roughly 2 inches per side, which is 4 inches overall. And that's not too unimpressive.